Welcome again to the 214 Sports Show, episode 103. Still creeping up past the century mark like we did a few weeks ago. We do thank you for joining us again. If it is your first time, welcome. My name is Joseph Duffy, joined alongside TJ Krilowicz. This is your home for everything DFW sports. TJ, how you doing?
I'm doing great. I hope everyone's staying warm in Dalaska up there. I'm in Austin. We just got classes canceled on Monday, which was just made me feel amazing. So already off to a great start today.
This winter storm is nuts, man. It's unbelievable what we're experiencing in the Northeast right now. I've never felt as cold as I've ever felt a few days ago when I was trying to do some work. But man, like that gust shivers down my spine. I've never felt negative temps. I mean, I don't think I've ever experienced that even in Texas, but even Texas
I don't think we have.
could kind of compare itself right now to the Northeast. The weather right now in Texas is absolutely insane.
Dallas gets really cold. Austin's actually get like is decently warmer. I mean, we don't get like nearly. I mean, Dallas right now is of course like lots of snow. We just got sleet. We just got like a little bit of sleet last night, and it's sticking because we haven't gone above freezing. So
It's scary, man. People are kind of panicking, with all these shelves being empty, like it's the apocalypse coming up and you gotta fend for yourself.
people buying like
I
loads
don't
and
know.
loads of milk, man.
I
Come on,
saw that one. That
that
was
was
funny.
insane.
Come on. What are we doing? Well, it is another episode of the 214 Sports Show, and it's never really a boring week in Dallas sports. I tell you that, especially after last week. Since the last episode, the Cowboys have finally gotten a new replacement for Matt Eberflus. There's a new defensive coordinator for America's team, and his name is Christian Parker, the DB's coach from the Philadelphia Eagles. He bounces inside the division to the Eagles' rival, the Dallas Cowboys. This is a DB's coach that helped develop Cooper DeJean into an All-Pro. Patrick Surtain previously, as he was on the Broncos secondary coaching staff as well, and he's really helped transform this Eagles secondary. If you remember from a few years ago when they lost the Chiefs the first time, this secondary was getting picked on. That was definitely the weakness of Philadelphia's defense. Now, the past 2 years, Philadelphia's defense has been a strength, and the offense has been struggling a lot more, and they've had to lean more on this defense, and especially, DBs like Cooper DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell. So guys like Christian Parker, with that in mind, that kind of helps me be a little hype and help him develop this young defense of the Cowboys now, since Matt Eberflus has left and Brian Schottenheimer will be entering his second season. Do you feel the same way with this hire? Because so far, I think I'm liking it, and he's a young coach.
Like I try to, I really don't try to get too like invested into DCs or just like these assistant coach hires. I know that they can be a big difference. We saw it with Dan Quinn when he was our DC for a few years, but we were just talking about this on the podcast last year, how we were excited about Matt Eberflus being the DC last year. Now, Christian Parker, he's definitely proved himself a little bit more as a DC, as you were just talking about. He's developed amazing talent. The Eagles secondary has become miles ahead of what they were just a few years ago. And of course, they had the young players to develop. Now, the Cowboys, I don't know how much they do. They have Elon, they have Kalen Carson, but do we really think that they're going to be these all pros or anything like like Cooper DeJean has been or Patrick Surtain? How is that? I don't know if I have the confidence. It takes a whole army. It's going to take an entire army, maybe a whole country, maybe a whole government to change this Cowboys defense from what it was last year. It's not just going to be Christian Parker. Now, I do think this is a step in the right direction, but if you're going to have Kalen Carson starting, I do like Siobhan Revel. I do think that he's going to be better, but people like Marquise Bell, are they going to be are they going to be miles ahead better than they were last year? I don't think so. I don't think Christian Parker is going to have that big of a pull. Now he might make them a little bit better, which again, anything is better than what last year was. So I am happy, but I do think that we just gotta take a step back and realize that there's a lot of work still to be done. A lot of work on this
That's a
defense.
very level-headed take. And, it's easy to get caught up in saying this guy is going to lead this defense back to glory like it was back in 2022. And one of the best Cowboys defensive runs we've seen, getting so many turnovers. We grew up not seeing this team get a lot of turnovers. It felt like if Orlando Scandrick got a turnover, I could put someone on the grill because it was just so rare that this team would get an interception or recover a fumble. On those Dan Quinn days, man, I feel like you get two turnovers a game. If this team can get back to finding the way to give the ball back to their offense, they can be dangerous again. Because I really felt like Matt Eberflus let Brian Schottenheimer down the most on this team, not Dak Prescott. It's a shame that this defense played the way it did because, as you were saying, anything is better than what happened last year. That was
Hmm.
quite honestly the worst Cowboys defense in the history of the franchise. Never seen anything that bad. I never thought anything could be worse than that COVID era defense. I mean, with Jalen Smith, man, I really thought that was the worst defense I'd ever seen for the Cowboys.
Oh
But
boy,
somehow
Jalen
these
Smith, what
guys
happened?
did so much worse. I couldn't have ever forecasted what we saw this past season.
Well, and they have good bulletin board material for, I guess, how to be a good defense. You have there's a few games, there's a little spot in late November where this team started to look alive, the defense. They were creating turnovers even on special teams. They had fight, and that was against, of course, Philadelphia and Kansas City. Those two games where we won at AT&T late in November. You had some great games. DeMar Overshown had just came back. That's a big part of the Cowboys defense, of course, and I'm glad that he had such a great bounce back. We've been talking about this on the pod. It's worrying to see him have multiple ACL injuries. I believe they were both ACL injuries that he's had since getting here to the Cowboys, and you just don't know how that's gonna, make him play. You don't know if that's going to turn him into a Jalen Smith, and so I'm happy that he was able to come back and be a very, very critical part of this defense, albeit a very terrible, historically bad defense. But he did come back and was a part of this team, played great, and you have a decent front line, you have a decent defensive line. You just got Quinn Williams. You'll be all right over there, I think. It's the secondary that really worries me, and glad that Christian Parker, again, is a step in the right direction, but there's a lot of work to do there.
Immediately when he got hired, you saw the former guys he's coached shouting him out on Twitter, Cooper DeJean, Patrick Surtain, many others, congratulating their former coach in his transition to becoming a DC for the first time in his career. And this is a quick ascent to being a coordinator. This guy is 34 years old. He was coaching MEAC HBCU ball just about a decade ago and is already a DC in the NFL. So what a crazy run this guy is on. It's not easy to be a coach in the NFL, and he's already, becoming a lead coordinator for one of the most historic franchises in the NFL. So props to him. Wish him the best. Depends on what he's gonna do in this upcoming draft
A
too.
lot of pressure for a 34-year-old too. See, I don't know if I
Absolutely.
could handle that pressure. Even though I'm not close to 34. Sorry. Still got about 12 years of my life to get there, but I don't know if how I'm gonna feel if I'm a 34-year-old going to be the DC of a franchise that has one of the largest fan bases in the world, the biggest brand in the world for sports. And they just came off the worst defensive season they've had in their entire season. I don't, that's a lot of pressure for him. So I hope he's ready for the task.
And not just that, but Jerry Jones breathing down your neck for like literally everything. And, it's not easy for a lot of
Jerry's always
Cowboys
been a good
coaches.
defender of his staff and
Oh, he's
stuff.
a,
He was
for
never really,
sure.
he really did, keep good tabs with Jason Garrett, with Mike McCarthy and all those. He really, it was Matt Eberflus that just like started to flip him over
Oh,
and
yeah.
make him actually say these like,
He was
these
taking
takes.
shots, man.
Yeah, taking shots. That's what it was. He was really taking shots at Eberflus before they fired him. I haven't seen that part of Jerry Jones yet, so I was, correct me if I'm wrong. It just seems like he's always been an incredibly loyal guy. When he takes it,
Oh, sure.
when you sign that contract, he lets you, have free range. Doesn't really interfere. But Eberflus, man, whew.
Well, we mentioned Dan Quinn, but the man who coached under um, that regime was Mike McCarthy, or coached over Dan Quinn was Mike McCarthy, and former Packers coach, former Cowboys coach, is now
Good transition.
the new lead man for his hometown team. The Pittsburgh Steelers have officially replaced Mike Tomlin with Mike McCarthy, the fourth coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers in the last 70 years. Already insane. We've seen that stat how they like to hold on to their coaches. They have a good tradition, the Rooney family. I'm not just firing coaches whenever they want. Usually they hold on and stay there for a long time. And they tabbed Mike McCarthy for 5 years. Again, the native of Pittsburgh. What do you think about this before we transition?
Well, first of all, if I was Mike McCarthy, I mean, I know that he's a Pittsburgh native. If I was just the head coach looking for a job, I would be putting out feelers for that Pittsburgh job when Mike Tomlin left because you're just talking about that. It's like that is a I mean, the range of that Mike Tomlin had on the Steelers for all that time. I mean, my whole life, basically my whole life, Mike Tomlin was the Pittsburgh Steelers coach. I'm a senior in college now. And so if they're going to let him do that and have those mediocre years for the last 10 or so years that they've had a few good years in the last 10 years, but majority of the times it's been pretty mediocre Cowboys type seasons. And nothing. Still the head coach every year. He had to be the one to take him out of the head coaching position. So, I mean, I think it's a good hire, though. I really don't think that Mike McCarthy is terrible. I think he
Mm.
gets a lot of flack. He had three consecutive 12-win seasons with the Cowboys. That's not easy to do.
He got some crazy hate around here. It never sat right with me, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that
Yeah.
his offensive play calling was too bad. I know that there's a few times where, there's games where it's like, damn, we wish we could have, had better play calling there. Eh, it's a tough thing to do. Like it's tough
Mhm.
to be an offensive play caller in the NFL. There's the best defensive players, best defensive coaches in the world. You got to be pretty damn good to have a top offense, which they were able to do for all 4 years, all 3 out of the 4 years that he was the head coach. And I know another thing was time management. That was the biggest issue I probably had with Mike McCarthy. I would say that this is, it's a good hire. It's a good hire for Pittsburgh. I think it is true that he gets a lot of hate for n really no reason.
It definitely is safe to me. Arthur Smith won't be their OC anymore. He's heading to Ohio State to be the new offensive coordinator in Columbus. But yeah, Mike Tomlin, what a career it was in Pittsburgh. Again, this is a guy who didn't really have a tree. Again, they do things differently in Pittsburgh, so he never really had, a tree to have coordinators bounce off and develop, unlike other coaches. He's basically like, the face of the team, almost like a college organization in a way. But
Hmm.
what a career it was, and Mike McCarthy, two of the last three Pittsburgh head coaches were natives of Pittsburgh. Bill Cowher, the Hall of Famer, before
Really?
Mike Tomlin, also a native. So makes the Steelers stand out in a way that like their hometown guys. I
More
almost
loyal than
thought,
Jerry Jones is, though, it sounds like.
yeah, a little bit. Imagine they got Kurt Signetti, also a native of Pittsburgh. That would have been kind of cool to see him come home and leave Indiana after winning a natty, after the work he's
Oh,
done
Indiana would
there.
hate him. That'd
Man, he's gonna be
be
treated like a god there
terrible
from,
backstab.
yeah. Uh, oh,
Hit it, then quit it. Sorry.
sorry, my mic was bad. But
Oh,
yeah,
no,
what
you're
a
good.
run Indiana has been on, and Carson Connecticut could have possibly, come home, I thought, but nah, he's gonna retire in Indiana, and what a great job he's done. Moving on to the Dallas Mavericks, TJ, and this team, again, they just cannot figure out what they want to do. They were on a
It's
four-game win
unbelievable.
streak. They were on a four-game win streak since our last episode. They beat up on the New York Knicks, beat up on the Jazz again, back-to-back games. And then they also defeated Golden State, and then all of a sudden against the Lakers, another Luka homecoming. They were right there against this team, and then the fourth quarter, the wheels just fell apart.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good way to put it. I mean, that was terrible, terrible offense in the fourth quarter. I mean, it's a game that you look at and it's like you just went on a four-game lo winning streak, but it looks like you guys are actively tanking. And, I don't even know what to think about this team anymore. I don't know if they should tank. I don't know if they should compete because they are literally smack dab in the middle right now. And it cannot be any worse positioning for them for future, for the future, basically. I mean, you know, I was telling you before this podcast, I was like, this game, like I don't really care if they win or lose at this point right now, but this one I wanted. And the only reason why I didn't want it really didn't have to go with Luka Doncic, but I had to go with Rui Hachimura. And whenever he made that N1 three and just started letting it
Yelling.
loose, like he just won the championship, like he was highly emotional after making that, and then making the three afterwards. And I'm like, all right. All right, now we got to beat him. I don't want to lose to Rui Hachimura's, NBA Finals game. I know that's such an over exaggeration. Like, oh, we're your Super Bowl or whatever. I know. I don't try to say that a lot. I'm making it as a joke this time. But Rui Hachimura doing that, I was like, okay, this is like a highly emotional game. I can't help but pull for my team that I've rooted for my whole entire life. And so, I liked. Yeah, I like the team for the third quarter. They had a great game, but that fourth quarter, you talk about like Brendan Williams' pull-up three when we're down five with like a minute left. Just a terrible decision. Pushing it, I think they had a time where they could have really slowed it down, but they just kept on pushing it. It was a multiple turnovers. It was a very sloppy game, for both sides, really. But they were able to hit their shots in the fourth, and the Mavericks weren't, and that's what happened. I will say that one thing that I really liked, and I try to watch as much Mavericks ball as I can. Um, and I want to give like a huge, huge shout out to Max Christie for his
I was gonna say
development
that.
that he
Yep.
has taken since this trade. It hasn't even been a year, and he just looks like a completely different player. He has really, really stepped up. He's taking shots. He's not afraid to take a shot. He's not afraid to put the ball on the floor if they're really getting up on him. Um, Trying to take away his three. He's good with his drives. He's aggressive. And so that's just something that, this guy went through a trade, one of the biggest trades in NBA history, if not the biggest, as a 21-year-old, 22-year-old, as a part of the deal. And for him to come in and embrace his role with Dallas, work with Jason Kidd, work with his teammates, and become the sharpshooter that he is, the good 3-and-D player that he is, I'm happy for him. Now, he still needs to be a little bit better on defense. I think he needs to gain a little muscle. All right, Luka was kind of just going past him every single time. They're trying to get Luka to kind of, I'll tell you what, Max Christie's blow-by percentage was terrible last night. But I mean, I don't know. I think that he's been great. I just want to give him a shout out. So
A very overlooked piece in that Luka trade that we don't, really give much of its flowers for a lot because the guy is so young, and a lot of Lakers fans were not too happy that he was a piece they had to give up in that Luka trade. But
boo-hoo.
yeah, too bad, I guess, because it was already still a little bit of a robbery, and we could have gotten even more in that trade than we did with Anthony Davis and Max
Mhm.
Christie, and some picks. But that game right there, I look at this Mavs team in the past week and a half or so in their last few games, but you know, they have a different leading scorer almost every game, it seems like. We saw Klay Thompson have those really dominant performances against Utah, but it could be Max Christie one night, it could be Flag, it could be Najee Marshall. Sometimes it could be Nemhard in a loss, who knows? But this team can have anybody, it seems, that can give you at least 15 or 20. Um, and that's what happens when you're led by a young star, and Anthony Davis is sometimes not there. Seems like anybody could step up at any time to give you 20. Seeing what Najee Marshall could do against Denver a few weeks ago and what he could do against Golden State, that's pretty huge. Has such a beautiful floater, like we like to shout it out all the time. But Max Christie, like you were saying, man, it's just awesome to see his ascent, and the fact that he is so young and he can still grow along with Cooper Flag is encouraging for sure for this franchise and this, ailing fan base. Again, being reminded of this trade last night as Luka Doncic was just dominant once again for the Los Angeles Lakers. I don't know if this team has beaten the Luka Lakers yet.
If not, 0 and
Yeah,
4.
I don't think they have. I don't have the exact record on me right now, but
0 and
Luka
4.
Doncic was 0 and 4. My goodness. So
Luka's
Luka,
beaten us 4
33 points.
times since getting traded.
Yep. 33 points, 8 of 15 from the field, 3 of 8 from 3-point range, and then 14 of 15 from the line. Every now and then we used to see Luka struggle from the line,
Can we
but
talk
a
about the
lot.
White Palace starting too, by the way, just real quick?
Yeah,
That's just insane. That's just insane. This guy is the
he's
literal
inevitable.
he is inevitable for sure. Like he is basically what Max Christie was of the Rondo deal. Like he was the overlooked part for the longest time, and now he is the longest tenured Maverick probably in history since Dirk. I mean, I don't. There's definitely more like Brad Davis and stuff, but I
Yes,
mean, it's
man.
just insane. and now he's starting again. And he had a good game,
Plus
he's not being a
13 from the
scorer.
court.
Plus 13 from the court. He's getting rebounds, he's the GOAT. Oh my goodness, he's the GOAT of doing. It's like Tyson Chandler. I think Tyson Chandler trained him because I think he is still part of the Mavericks staff, or he was for a little bit. The little, like getting the ball and just tapping it back to the,
Yeah,
the three-point
yeah,
line, the perimeter. Dwight
yeah.
Powell, man, he was doing that a lot last night, and it was just fun to watch. He's for a guy that's so athletic and a guy that's pretty tall, I wish he would get more rebounds. But what he was doing last night, pretty sick, man. I like you, Dwight Powell. It's not there's nothing that I dislike about you. It's just you're just a funny meme, man. But like that was a good performance from him. Good performance. I liked him.
Dude, I said it as a joke like months ago, but do you think his number will be hanging in the rafters eventually, like Nick Collison for like OKC?
I think he's gonna be a Maverick for life. I think he's gonna come back in like a staff role. I don't think he'll get his jersey retired, but I don't see him ever leaving. Like
Hey, he's
he's
big
gonna
in the
be on the
community.
Mavericks till he retires. It's like Nick Collison at this point.
Literally, Nick Collison. Hey,
So
Nick Collison got his number retired by OKC,
that's true, but
and
he
people are
was.
saying,
I mean, technically, Dwight Powell played and was drafted by the Celtics, his first half season. So, I mean, he's not technically a Maverick for life, but he kind of is at this point.
"Yeah,
I mean, maybe
this dude
he's
has
gone
been
through a
here
lot of
for
eras.
ages." Donnie Nelson was GM when this guy was
Donnie
on the
Nelson
Mavs and
was
Nelson.
was that, and we had Chandler Parsons, Monte Ellis, and Tyson Chandler starting when he was here. We had Raymond Felton on the team, and
My goodness, Dwight Powell, you're timeless.
timeless.
Moving on to the Dallas Stars, and they're playing a little bit better. Jason Robertson, scoring his 30th goal with a minute to play in the third period. Stars never looked back in defeating, I believe, yes, the St. Louis Blues. This is a Stars team that's been up and down so far in January. Been dealing with injuries again, but losing that shutout loss against Columbus was an offensive struggle, but bouncing back against St. Louis was huge for sure, don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, you wish that you can not have close games against teams like St. Louis, but it's hockey, anything can happen. You're going to have close games. You just lost to Columbus too. So, you just got to take the wins when you can. And I'm glad that they were able to get it done against St. Louis, not have to go into overtime because they just haven't been too good in overtime recently. And so I would expect them to only take 1 point, and you can't do that against St. Louis at home. Um, I mean, the thing is that it's tough. They're going through a really rough offensive patch. I don't know really what's the main, point of how, why they're doing so bad on offense, but you look at the last 6 games, this is not even talking about they went on that big losing streak in mid-December, the early January, but they were scoring goals. They had those goal scorers. They're still getting like 3 a game, 4 a game. They're just losing on the defensive side. They're giving up too many goals. Now in these last 6 games, you're talking about a 2-4 record, I believe, and you have 2 goals per game on that 6 game, 6 game streak. And let me mind you this, one of those games is the 6 goal game against Boston, and you're still averaging only 2 goals a game in those 6 games. That's it's pretty bad. And I mean, I was trying to think about like I don't know, they still have really good depth on this team, but it just the scoring depth has dried out a little bit. And I was looking at it because I remember I was like, didn't we have like a season of recently where we had like 9 players reach 20 plus goals? And it was 2 years ago, 23 to 24 season, we had 8 players get the 20 plus goals. We were probably only going to have 4 players get the 20 plus goals on this season. And so I don't know if that's, I wish that there's a little bit more scoring disparity on this team right now. It feels like it's only Johnston and Robertson scoring with a sprinkle of Miko and Hintz. But you look at it and there's only 4 players right now with 10 plus goals in the season. They're over halfway done with the season. They just don't have that scoring depth that they used to have. You look at these 20 plus goal scorers from 2 years ago. You have Pavelski, of course, Duchesne, who's been hurt, obviously, Sagan, who's been hurt, obviously, Marchment, Ben. You don't have these players. You don't have Marchment anymore. Ben's just, he's losing his a little bit of probably like half a step every season. He's getting really old. He's trying to be more of a leader than a goal scorer, I guess. Which hey, I mean, if you're being a leader, go out there and score some goals. I know it's a lot harder said than done, or a lot harder done than said. But I mean, I just thought that the scoring depth is a little bit of a concern here. So
I mean, for sure. I mean, it was an offensive performance, and you look at offensive performance against Boston, of course, that you're referencing, that has really stood out so much compared to the other games in the past month, where this team is really only putting up one goal a game, as you were saying, averaging two a game, just barely, in the rest of their matchups. But you like to think that if you have a solid defense, you can lean on that and beat every game. And this team has been losing a lot of the games, so they put up one goal in. So. It's just a little disappointing sometimes, but you win what you want to get the wins where you can get them against teams that are not as talented in St. Louis. They'll do it
mhm.
again against St. Louis on Tuesday at 7 o'clock Central, and then
For they have their
it's coming
big
up.
break, Winter Olympics.
Yeah, Winter
That's gonna
Olympics
be
coming
fun.
up.
I do want to say just super, super quickly though, it's just like there's other players too that just kind of pique my interest with goal scoring. I know that Thomas Harley's been hurt for a good season and he was just trying to get his legs back just recently, of course. I mean, came back early December. I don't he's not scored a lot of goals this season. He hasn't been the offensive powerhouse that he has been in recent times. Now, I will say that is because he was on the power play unit last year with Miro hurt a lot, and he's not really doing that. He's the second part of the power play now. Miro's taking that role back, but you wish that you could kind of see Harley take more of a initiative in trying to, get some shots on net, get those opportunities. I wish that he was able to. Duchesne again is somebody who just came back from injury and he's starting to pick it up a little bit, but you wish to see him be a more integral part of the team, especially since we've been so stressed about re-signing him almost every offseason. So
For sure. And the Winter Olympics are coming up. Just a few more games to play for the Dallas Stars. It should be an exciting contest.
is the ice going to be ready? So
Yeah, I mean, by the way, I feel like that is so unprofessional, by the way. I don't know how that's actually.
bet you can bet on it on Kalshi.
I'm sure you
Not a
can
Kalshi
actually.
advertisement, by the way. I hate
Yeah.
Kalshi.
Well, you're not sponsored by Kalshi here.
But if you want to sponsor us,
Yeah, we won't turn it down. I don't think so.
hey, I'll take the money.
We'll take it. Yeah. Moving on before we close the show, I do want to briefly talk about the Texas Rangers. And, we've been begging this team, Chris Young, the president of operations, to, show some life. Instead of going for scraps, make a trade, make a splash move. I don't think we expected this team to make a trade like they did this past week, acquiring MacKenzie Gore from the Washington Nationals. Trying to help out the rotation that was already one of the best in the league. Over their lineup that has struggled so much and honestly cost them a playoff spot. This is a team in the Texas Rangers that had the best ERA, the lowest ERA in the majors, and missed the postseason going 81-81. And here they are giving off five prospects for MacKenzie Gore, who didn't have a really good second half last season. So the 5-for-1 trade looks as MacKenzie Gore becoming a Texas Ranger, and the Rangers give off their first round pick last year, third baseman Gavin Feen, who they drafted at 19 years old, and then also a right-hander in Alejandro Rosario, Abelmick Ortez, Devin Fitzgerald, and then Yeremy Cabrera in this deal. Obviously, one of the more recognizable names was Gavin Feen for his role in USA Baseball. We talked about him on the podcast, probably I think in summer, I believe, or when the actual draft happened. But yeah, I didn't think this would be this quick of a time that this guy would no longer be a Ranger in Gavin Feen. But what do you think about this trade? MacKenzie Gore had an all-star first half, but in the second half, man, it just really was a lot different. A 6.75 ERA in the second half of the MLB season in 2025.
I mean, it is a big return for the Nationals, for the Walgreens, I guess. First of all, I just want to get to the point that Devin Fitzgerald, part of the trade for the Rangers that you mentioned, amazing name, amazing last name
I
because you
love how
think it
it's
would just be
separated.
Fitzgerald like Larry Fitzgerald. No, it
Yeah,
is Fitz
sure.
hyphen Gerald.
Yeah, that was pretty funny to me.
I mean, that's yeah. I don't know how that's pretty sick. I would not expect it to be like that. So, But I mean, I guess, you need a lefty. You're not, you don't have really a lefty in the rotation now with Tommy Mahl gone, which just such a sad, tenure with the Rangers. He was so
Dude,
good,
he was
but never
cooking.
played, never played. And all of a sudden he's just gone, just like that. So I mean, you get a lefty back in the rotation. He was an all-star. He showed glimpses of being good. You wish that maybe you can turn that into a full season because we're going to need that for a full season, especially because, I don't know how good this rotation really is going to be. Um, I kind of wish that we would just take a chance on Rocker. I think that this is kind of move that take Rocker out of the rotation or either, get a second lefty, I guess. But more so, I feel like this is kind of a move to get Rocker out of the rotation starting next year. I get that he had a terrible year, but I have a hard time giving up on that guy. He just seems like his potential it just seems like it's there. It seems like it's there. He just needs to get his control down because he has great stuff. He has a really fast fastball. I don't see why, I just don't see why he wouldn't be successful. It's the control, really, and maybe the confidence. I don't know. I just hope that he can be good, and I don't know if that's what this is going to try to do, but I don't know. What do you think about the trade? Because I,
I'm
I,
very
I really
mixed.
don't care about MacKenzie Gore. When I saw like the siren emoji basically like on my notification for this trade, I was like, doesn't seem like a really big blockbuster, but
He was a big move for the Padres in getting
it's true.
Juan Soto in that
Yep.
trade. And when he got drafted, he had a lot of hype. So far in his career, I don't know if he's really even lived up to it, sadly. A career 4-5, I believe I read that he's had in his career, big losing record as well. It is valuable to still be a lefty in this league today, so he still has that going on for him. But this is definitely going to make this team and the Rangers still, I think, the best rotation in the AL West. I don't think it's really too close, honestly. You still have a Jacob deGrom and Nathan Eovaldi. You still have a really solid rotation also in Kumar Rocker, as you were talking about. Not sure who the fifth guy will be just yet. It could be a lot of different faces. It could be Latz as well. Who knows? He had a really solid second half as well,
Yep.
Jacob Latz.
He was bussing.
He was
Sorry,
busting, as Bruce
Bochy. I
Bochy
miss you,
said.
bro. I miss you, man.
Man, new coaching staff altogether for the Texas Ranger and Skip Schumacher. Jordan Teagues is now the new pitching coach, native of Ontario, Canada. So Mike Maddox is no longer going to be calling the
That's a
shots
tough
for the
one.
pitching staff. Yeah, it's a big loss for sure, as he is now the pitching coach of the Anaheim Angels out there in California. So Jordan Teagues, interested to see what he can do with this staff. I guess this move shows they have real confidence in making sure that he can be a more consistent fencer maker. Was explaining that this is a move that he felt like they had to make to really maximize this team's potential. That's what they were saying with this trade, him and Chris Young. So, with that being said, that'll conclude. Do you have something else to say? Sorry.
No, no. You can
Oh,
you can go.
I thought you were about to punctuate something else. Sorry.
I was thinking about it, but
Well,
no, I don't need to.
yeah, well, that'll do it for episode 103 of the 214 Sports Show. We do remind you to like and subscribe on YouTube. We post these episodes every Monday at 11 a.m. Central. Again, we moved the time to Monday at 11 a.m. Central. Please like, subscribe, and share to somebody you know. This is your home for Dallas Fort Worth sports. Please follow our accounts also on Instagram and Twitter/X. We post short form content there. Some of our takes, some funny moments here and there as well. Also, YouTube Shorts and TikTok at the 214 Sports Show. And TJ, could you take it away with your socials when people could find you?
Absolutely. You can follow me on Instagram at tj.Krilowicz and then on Twitter/X. I still call it that because it's tough for me to still transition to a big long X. TJ_Krilowicz.
And you can follow me at Joseph_Duffey99 on Twitter/X and Instagram. It's the same there. You can also follow on TikTok if you want at JOE_Duffy. So again, please like and subscribe this video. Share it to somebody you know. We'll break up these segments by team again, as we always do, and be back here on Monday next week for episode 104. For TJ Krilowicz, I'm Joseph Duffy. This was the 214 Sports Show. We'll see you next week.